a field archaeologist, so I go out and excavate sites. But my sort of real big, keen interest is understanding mostly our fossil ancestors, which we find I've mostly worked in Africa. So this is a skull I dated actually from my PhD. So it's known as Mrs. Ples. It's about 2 million years old, and it's from a cave just outside of Johannesburg. And how technology has aided us. In the past, if anyone's seen an archaeological excavation, you basically put a metre by a metre square out, and in the past you've done that all with tape measures and putting grids and things down, and so there's obviously a lot of human error in trying to put tape measures together and put grids and trying to draw everything. So the best thing that anyone ever invented, as far as I'm concerned, is one of these things. Right. Now you may see these, obviously, you'll see people on the sides of the roads using these a lot of the time, or versions a little bit like it. So it's a surveying device, and it's used obviously a lot in construction for building roads, houses, whatever else. And the beauty of this thing is this one actually has a little computer that's built in on board, runs Windows and everything like that. And what this basically does is it has a little laser that it shoots out, so you can actually look through there, and when you're excavating, so you've got an excavation on the ground, and if you've got a stone tool or something in your open excavation, you basically look through there, pinpoint, there'll be a little set of crosshairs on there, you pinpoint it onto the stone tool, and then it then shoots a laser from that and will actually bounce off the stone tool and back. In the past you had to hold these sort of big rods and stuff like these, so you'd have a sort of a large prism or something like that on the end of a rod, and the laser would go into the prism, bounce off there and back again. But again, you have this slight problem that if you're sitting there trying to hold this thing level over an artifact, it has a tendency to move around. So that's sort of so you know, you went from tape measures to using things like this where you had to hold a prism, to this one which is actually what's known as a reflectorless one, which means it just bounces off everything. You can pretty much do everything with this, so you can shoot in where your artifacts are, so that gives you coordinates in 3D space, which means you can then put it into a program, a GIS program in the computer. It will plot up depth, you know, everywhere that it is. You can also, rather than sitting there hand drawing sections in archaeological sites, you can actually use this just to shoot in the sections, so you can shoot in where all the layers are.
What would you say would be like the most useful piece of technology that you use in the field?
That thing, yeah, it's the best thing I ever spent money on. It cost me about $15,000. And it just makes your life so much easier, it makes everything you do so much more accurate. I mean, we use it for excavation, but I also use it if I'm taking samples, so I can just set it up, I can shoot it in, and then I already know what distance all my samples are from each other. Yeah, that is by far the most useful thing for me. Any more questions?
How has technology, how has it changed your sort of work environment?
Well, I suppose the biggest problem, the biggest challenge for people in archaeology is keeping up. Archaeology is actually a huge driver of technology, because we want to know, we want to know the answers to questions like how old is stuff. It's actually been archaeology often that has driven development in particular technologies in uranium series dating, uranium lead. You'll find a lot of the people that have developed those methods and made them better and extended time ranges of people that have done work on archaeology, almost every one, cosmogenics. So, I mean, that's a sort of huge thing. There's a sort of funny, there's a little bit of a strange thing with archaeology, because it's still seen very much as an arts subject.
Yeah.
I did archaeology as a science, so I did it as a BSc. I was in an archaeology department, but you could do it as an arts or as a science, and I did it as a science. And you know, my colleague always says that when we excavate archaeological sites, in the past they'd have literally excavated the entire thing out. These days we excavate a small part of it and we leave parts of it so that future generations can come back, and he always says, well, someone might invent a robot that goes in and pulls it all apart, dates it, works out what the environment was, sticks it all back together again and moves on. But so that's the other thing, is having an understanding of that people in the future are potentially going to have better technology than you and be able to do certain